Okay, so has anyone ever asked you that question? Like, what's your typical day like? And you just freeze. Your mind goes blank.
Oh, definitely. Happens all the time.
Yeah, and you want to tell them, but what comes out is just, well, it sounds a bit robotic, doesn't it? I wake up, I eat breakfast, I go to work,
Exactly. Correct,
Well-
but kind of flat. Lacks personality.
Right. It feels like you're just listing items off a schedule. That feeling, being tongue-tied.
Yeah.
Well, today in this deep dive, we're aiming to get past just, listing verbs and times. We want to help you build sentences that flow naturally, sound confident, fluent even, and really help you connect.
Yeah, connection's key.
Because describing your day, it's such a basic conversation starter, isn't it? It's actually really important for building rapport.
Absolutely. Meeting new people, colleagues.
For job interviews, that question, tell me about a typical day, it comes up constantly.
It really does. And what we're talking about here, it's not just memorizing phrases for this specific situation.
Right.
It's about mastering some really essential grammar and vocabulary that you're going to use everywhere in English.
Okay.
We're talking about painting a picture, giving a sense of your life, not just reciting facts off a list. It's interesting. Studies even suggest that people who can articulate their routine clearly often come across as more dependable.
Oh, that is interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. More reliable just from describing your day.
Yeah, subtly. It reflects organization, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's a useful skill beyond just, language practice.
Okay, so if we're painting this picture, where's the starting point? The foundation.
Good question. Got to start with the basics.
So the essentials, that means, I guess, the right grammar tense and the key words.
Exactly. For routines, things you do regularly, habits, it's almost always the simple present tense.
Simple present. Okay.
So I wake up, she goes, we have lunch. Simple as that.
And that little lies for he, she, it. Can't forget that one. He starts work, she finishes.
Precisely. It's a small detail, but it marks correct grammar. Makes difference.
Got it. So simple present is the tense. What about the core vocabulary? Breaking the day down.
Yeah, let's break it down. Makes it easier to manage. Think about it in, say, 3 parts. Morning, daytime, evening.
Makes sense.
So for the morning, you've got your basics. Wake up, get up. Maybe brush my teeth, wash my face.
Standard stuff.
Right. Then make breakfast or have breakfast. Get dressed. Maybe you commute to work. Or perhaps you just fire up the laptop if you work from home. Start work.
Okay, that covers the morning launch. What about the main part of the day?
So daytime. Things like go to work if you commute. Answer emails. Everyone does that.
Don't remind me.
Yeah. Attend meetings, eat lunch, or maybe just grab a bite to eat. Work on a project, perhaps take a break, and then, finish work or wrap up work for the day.
Wrap up work. I like that phrase. And then the wind down part, the evening.
Exactly. The evening. So you might come back home or head home, relax, unwind. Maybe watch TV, listen to music, cook dinner, make dinner, or, hey, order food, talk to family, maybe study some English, read a book, and finally go to bed, go to sleep, or fall asleep. Those are your sort of core action verbs.
Okay, that's a really solid list of verbs, the building blocks. But like we said, we don't want it to sound like just a list. I wake up, I brush teeth, I eat. How do we connect these smoothly? What's the next layer?
Right, good question. The glue. That's where time markers come in. They are absolutely essential for flow.
Time markers. Okay, like specific time.
Yeah, specific times like at 6 a.m. or at 7:30. Or you can be more proximate, like around noon, about lunchtime.
Okay, around and about. Useful.
Very. And for sequencing, showing the order, you've got words like then, next, after that, later on, and eventually, finally.
Simple but effective.
And you can also link actions based on other actions, like before I leave for work or after I get dressed, when I finish breakfast. It shows a relationship.
Okay, let's try that out. So the basic list was, I wake up, I get up, I brush my teeth, I have breakfast. How does it sound improved with those time markers?
It instantly sounds better, more connected. You'd say something like, at 7 a.m. I wake up, then I get up and brush my teeth. After that, I have breakfast.
Ah, yeah, much smoother.
See? It's already starting to sound more like a little story, a progression,
Oh, yeah.
even with just those simple connectors.
Okay, that makes a huge difference. So we've got the basic verbs, the simple present, and we're connecting them with time markers. Now, how do we inject more personality, make it sound less like a schedule and more like, well, you?
Right, this is where we add the color, the detail. And a really key tool here is using adverbs of frequency.
Adverbs of frequency, like telling how often you do something.
Exactly. Think of it like a scale. You've got always, that's 100%. Then usually, or normally maybe 80, 90%, often around 70%, sometimes right in the middle, 50%,
Okay.
then less frequent. Occasionally, rarely, maybe 10, 20%. And finally, never 0%.
And where do these usually go in the sentence? That can be tricky.
Good point. The general rule is they go before the main verb. So I usually have cereal. But she, if the verb is be, they go after it. She is often late.
Ah, okay. Before the main verb, after be. Got it. So I sometimes skip breakfast, but I am rarely tired in the morning.
Perfect. You've got it.
Now, we mentioned then and after that for linking. Are there other, maybe slightly more sophisticated ways to connect ideas to make it flow even better?
Oh, absolutely. You can use connectors that show a clearer relationship, like first I wake up, then I brush my teeth. That's fine. But you can also say, after I get dressed, I make coffee. Or before I leave the house, I always check I have my keys.
Okay, so using after and before clauses?
Right. Or once I get home, I usually change my clothes, or even showing things happening at the same time. While my coffee is brewing, I check the news headlines on my phone.
Ah, that's a good one too. These definitely make it sound less like just a sequence of events.
They create a much more natural conversational rhythm. Sounds less like bullet points.
And what about adding the why, the reasons behind the routine, or just more personal details? That seems important for making it engaging.
Crucial. This is how you make it yours.
Yeah.
Don't just say what you do. Think about why or how you feel about it. Add those little details.
Okay, give me an example.
So instead of just, I go to the gym after work,
Yeah.
try, I usually go to the gym after work because it really helps me de-stress after sitting at a desk all day. See? That because adds so much.
It does. It tells me something about how you manage stress.
Exactly. Or I try to read for about 30 minutes before bed to help me unwind and sleep better. The reason makes it relatable. You can add specific habits. On Tuesdays, I always have a standing coffee date with my friend Sarah. Or just express a feeling. I absolutely love my quiet mornings with just a cup of tea before the rest of the house wakes up.
Okay, those specifics, like the coffee date or the feeling about quiet mornings, they really paint a picture. It makes the person telling it seem more real.
It does. It invites connection. Listeners feel like they get a little window into your world, your personality. It actually builds empathy, research suggests.
That's fascinating. So let's do another quick before and after. Let's take, I make coffee in the morning. How can we elevate that using adverbs and details?
Okay, so before, I make coffee. A bit bland.
Right.
After, I usually make a strong cup of coffee first thing in the morning, maybe using my French press, because I really need it to help me wake up properly.
Wow, okay. Much richer. Tells me you like strong coffee, how you make it, and why. Excellent. How about I get ready for work?
Okay, before, I get ready for work.
Yeah.
After, I normally get ready for work pretty quickly, probably about 20 minutes, as I really don't like to be late.
Again, much better. Shows efficiency and a bit about your personality being punctual. You're not just listing facts anymore.
Exactly. You're sharing these little mini stories that make up your day.
Which leads us to something you mentioned earlier. Life isn't always the same, right? Routines change.
Oh, absolutely. Rigidity isn't realistic for most people.
So how do we talk about those variations? Like the obvious one is weekdays versus weekends. How do people usually phrase that?
Yeah, that's a big one. Contrasting phrases work really well here. For example, on weekdays, I have to get up early for work. But on weekends, I love sleeping in a bit later.
Okay, on weekdays, but on weekends. Simple enough.
Or you could use, during the week, my evenings are usually pretty quiet, whereas on Saturdays, we often go out for dinner or see friends. Using whereas provides a nice contrast.
Whereas, good word. What about just general flexibility when things aren't fixed?
The magic phrase, it depends.
That's
so useful.
Oh, yes. Classic.
It's like, do you take lunch at the same time every day? Well, it really depends. If I have meetings, I might eat later. Otherwise, I try to stick to 1 p.m.
Got it. It depends. And otherwise.
And just generally, you can say things like, my routine varies quite a bit depending on the day, or it's not always set in stone, or generally speaking, I try to. These signal that flexibility.
Okay, that's really helpful for reflecting real life. So we've built a solid foundation, added personality, handled variations. What's next? How do we really make it shine? Add that extra flair to sound even more natural and fluent.
Right, taking it up a notch. This is where things like phrasal verbs become incredibly powerful.
Phrasal verbs. The bane of many learners, but so common in speech.
They really are.
Yeah.
But using them correctly makes a huge difference in sounding natural. For routines, think about wake up, get up, obviously,
Yeah.
but also turn on the light, turn off the TV, hang out with friends, pick up the kids from school, or pick up groceries, drop off the dry cleaning.
Okay.
Then there's chill out,
Yeah.
wind down in the evening, head out when you leave the house, get back when you return.
Fire up the laptop, you mentioned that one. Wrap up work.
Exactly. And even falling asleep, you could say drift off. Like I was reading and started to drift off.
So many useful ones. Maybe just a quick example sentence.
Sure. After work, I usually just chill out on the sofa for a bit, or we need to head out soon if we want to catch the train, or let's try to wrap up this meeting by 5 p.m.
Using those definitely makes it sound less formal, more conversational.
Totally. And another great little phrase, a good alternative to usually, is tend to.
Tend to. How would you use that?
Like, I tend to drink green tea in the afternoon, or we tend to eat dinner later on Fridays. It just sounds very natural, maybe slightly softer than usually.
I like that. Tend to. What else adds that fluency?
Talking about duration, how long things take.
Yeah.
Instead of just listing, say how long, my commute takes about 45 minutes, or I usually spend an hour making dinner.
Right. Adding the time element and preferences.
Yes, mentioning preferences.
Yeah.
Use phrases like, I prefer to, or I really enjoy, so I prefer to exercise in the morning if I can, or I really enjoy winding down with a good book before bed.
Again, adds that personal touch.
Absolutely. And just for fun, a few informal idioms related to routines.
Oh, go on then.
Well, you might hear rise and shine as a cheerful, maybe slightly annoying way to wake someone up.
Oh, okay.
When you finish work for the day, you say, let's call it a day.
Yep. Heard that one.
And for going to bed, super informally, you might say, time to hit the hay, or I'm going to hit the sack.
Hit the hay. Okay, maybe save that for informal chats, but good to know.
Definitely more casual, but very common.
Wow, okay. That's a lot of great tools. So let's just quickly recap everything we've covered to help people put it all together.
Good idea.
We started with the core stuff.
Yeah.
Using those key verbs, remembering the simple present tense, that's the foundation.
Right.
Then linking actions smoothly using time markers like at 7 a.m., then after that making it flow.
The connectors.
Next, sprinkling in those adverbs of frequency, usually, sometimes, rarely, to say how often.
Yep, adding precision.
Then the really important part, adding details, reasons, feelings, the why and how, making it personal and engaging.
Bringing it to life.
We also talked about handling variations, weekdays versus weekends, using it depends, acknowledging that life isn't rigid.
Crucial for realism.
And finally, we just touched on leveling up with phrasal verbs like wind down or wrap up, using tend to, talking duration, preferences, and even some fun idioms.
Exactly. Putting all those pieces together is the goal. And maybe it helps to hear a more complete example, integrating several of these techniques.
Yeah, definitely. Let's hear how it sounds all woven together.
Okay, so here's a shot at a typical day, trying to use some of those elements. Okay, so on a typical weekday, my alarm goes off around 6:45 a.m., but honestly, I usually hit the snooze button at least once, maybe twice, before I actually manage to get up.
Relatable.
Yeah. The very first thing I do is sort of stumble to the kitchen and make a really strong cup of coffee. Seriously, I feel like I can't function without it.
I know that feeling.
And while the coffee's brewing, I'll quickly check my phone, mostly just for any urgent work messages. After that, I'll have a pretty simple breakfast. Normally, it's just some yogurt and fruit. I actually work from home most days, so my commute is pretty easy just down the hall.
The dream commute.
It is. Around 8:30 or so, I fire up my laptop and usually spend the first 30 minutes planning out my main tasks for the day.
Okay, planning first.
Yeah, helps focus. I usually take a break for lunch around 1 p.m. Try to actually step away from my desk, maybe fix myself a sandwich or heat up leftovers.
Good habit, stepping away.
I try. Then I aim to wrap everything up by about 5:30 p.m., call it a day. To properly wind down, I really enjoy going for a walk, especially if the weather's nice, clears my head.
Nice.
And then in the evening, I try to avoid screens right before bed, so I'll often read for maybe 30 minutes or so until I feel myself starting to drift off. I usually hit the hay around 11 p.m.
That sounds great. You can really hear the difference, the flow, the details, the phrasal verbs like hit the snooze, fire up, wrap up, drift off, hit the hay. It paints such a clear picture.
Exactly. It's not just a list anymore, is it? It feels like a glimpse into someone's actual day. It's a narrative.
Totally. Okay, so now it's over to you, the listener. You've got the tools. You've heard the example. Here's your practice challenge to really make this stick.
Go for it.
All right, first, write it down. Take a few minutes, jot down your own routine, but don't just list. Focus on that flow, use connectors, add some details, maybe why you do something.
Good first step. Get it on paper.
Second, record yourself. Seriously. Use your phone. Talk for just a minute or two, describing your day using some of these new techniques. Then, and this is key, listen back. Be critical but kind. Way does it flow well? Where could you add more detail? Or maybe a phrasal verb?
Listening back is so revealing, isn't it? You catch things you don't notice while speaking.
Definitely. Third, find a conversation partner. Practice actually speaking your routine. Tell a friend, a language partner. I mean, even your dog or cat will listen.
They're very patient listeners.
The point is, saying it out loud makes it become more automatic, more natural over time.
It really does. Practice makes progress.
And finally, number 4, be observant. Listen actively. When you hear native speakers describe their day, maybe in movies, other podcasts, real conversations, notice the phrases they use. If you hear something you like, grab it. Try using it yourself.
Yeah, steal like an artist. Pick up those natural phrases.
Exactly.
And just remember, folks, describing your daily routine, it's such a practical and honestly useful way to build your overall English confidence and fluency. It uses so many core skills we've talked about. Don't get hung up on achieving perfection. Just aim for clear, natural communication. Paint that picture of your day.
That's great advice. Focus on communication, not perfection. And maybe, as a final thought to leave you with, as you practice describing your routine, maybe even just thinking about it more clearly for yourself, consider this. How might simply articulating your typical day with a bit more detail and awareness actually give you a fresh perspective on your own time, maybe your priorities? Could that little shift in how you talk about your day even spark a subtle change in how you connect with others? Something to think about.
Enjoyed the video? Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Subscribe for more English learning videos. See you in the next lesson.